Hey everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George-Affleck.
And it is time for...
You got your PSL, you got your SPD, and you got your STR. That's the whole show UnSpun.
Wow.
Now the PSL, of course, is pumpkin spice latte, which I...
Okay, I was like, I don't know what that one is.
I just threw that one in for good measure because we got a lot of acronyms.
Let's start with the SPD, or I guess it's SPS.
Is it SPS? Oh,
Surrey Police Services. Is that what we're talking about?
SPS. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
I think Mayor
I have
Brenda
SPD right here, actually. I just had it removed.
Gross. I think Mayor Brenda Locke might watch UnSpun, George.
You think?
Well, she certainly took your advice that you threw down last Thursday, and I had not ever heard it as concise. And you said, what?
I said the only thing she should be saying is, I'm only here for the taxpayers of this city. That's my only job, to protect the taxpayers of this city. My argument, as you know, I've always said this, is that because of my experience in Vancouver, is that the Surrey police is going to cost them 3 or 4 times what they're projecting. And that's what she knows too. So I said she needs to be more clear about that so people understand where she's coming from, because you and I talk about this and we go, what is going on? Why is she pinning herself into a corner? And now she's doing that, which I think is interesting. We'll talk a bit about the province's move, but I think maybe, and I saw Von Palmer, I think, say something about this. He thinks that maybe the province knows they don't have a legal leg to stand on, that she actually might have a case against them mandating this. And so now they're trying to find a way out of it by changing the rules, maybe giving her some more money.
They signaled that they were changing the legislation. And the latest that I saw in the press release from the province, from Mike Farnworth's office, the Solicitor General's office, Minister of Public Safety, said there's no more money and we are changing the legislation. And then David-Eby, Premier-Eby, who is a lawyer, said, there's no this is a dead end for you. So it's interesting to see the posturing on one side. And yet, you know, at the end of the day, you say it all the time, the city works at the pleasure of the province.
Sort of.
Right.
Yes.
And then the feds,
in this case, not.
Right. But so nobody likes to push to that degree because it doesn't land well with voters who voted in the municipal government that is making a decision that the province then comes in and you know, hammers. But this is just what I keep coming back to. And again, I'm a bit of a simpleton when it comes to politics. Like, why can't we just use common sense here, people? But I look at, like, everybody's yelling and screaming over $400 million, which is a boatload of money. Over policing, which is public safety. Clearly the public isn't safe. And we'll get into the reasons around that, not just in Surrey. But then the province threw down $1 billion for one building that they walked back. But the museum was going to be $1 billion with a B. And why are we like, I don't get, and is this a different bucket thing? Again?
Yeah, I mean, interesting question. I think the museum would have been a capital kind of infrastructure kind of purchase, whereas policing, in the case of Surrey, that's a one-time infusion, probably would come out of the operating budget. So there's a difference, right? You know, it looks more, it's more clear in the city where you have the, you know, the operating and the capital budgets, but generally it's like a business. You buy, you know, it's like a home where you have your home, that's a capital expense, and you've got your food. It's an operating expense. So you spend whatever $1 million over 50 years to pay for your home, and you got to buy food every day. So which budget is it coming out of?
I would say that policing is part of my home, and the cost of the gas in the cars could come out of that. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like we're reaching a point societally and politically where we have to revisit how things are done, which brings me to the public safety piece of the London drug story. We on Steele and Vance had the chief of security for London Drugs on the show in studio to talk about, you know, this chaos of shoplifting and repeat offenders, and how they're like, I'm going to quote, these numbers aren't precise, but it's some outrageous number, like 2,200 crimes were committed by 72 people. Like, they know exactly who's doing it, but you can't get them off the street because the system is broken and the police keep picking up the same people, and the Crown say, you don't have time, or whatever. I'm a little disenfranchised with the Crown, obviously, because I
Yes.
believe that they don't have the space or the people. Maybe it's the people power as well to get it done. I think they're similar to city staff at City Hall. It's not a slag of the people that work there. It's the system that is a problem here. But businesses are suffering. George, you talk about, how you've had to become accustomed to the failings of society and the failings of supports in society for how you step over somebody going into your business every day.
My business
Luckily,
and my
Kevin's
home.
a really nice guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I live downtown where that London drugs that we're talking about here, which is a very confusing topic. I mean, is it going? It was a rumor. It's not a rumor. It's a bit confusing. One of the city councilors was saying it's happening, and now
we spoke to London drugs guy. He said it's not a thing. Of course, they're talking about it.
I know.
Of course, they're talking about whether they should keep these stores open that keep getting their, $30,000 pane of glass in the front shattered by somebody who's tripping on something.
And I tweeted out, I think it was Paul Nixie, who used to work at City Hall in the mayor's office with the Gregor Robertson, tweeted saying he doesn't think this is a problem. I live downtown. He lives downtown, I'm pretty sure. If I go to the Shoppers Drug Mart right by my house, or the other one down in Homer, or if I go to the 7-Eleven, I can tell you that I have seen on multiple occasions shoplifters literally doing it and getting not caught. Most shoppers now have security, at least downtown, security at the entrance and the exit, in order to deal with it. But even they can't keep up or track it. And then when they do, these people just run. And then these poor security guards making whatever, $18 an hour. Are they willing to risk their lives for Shoppers Drug Mart? Probably not. 7-Eleven. I mean, if you go into most 7-Elevens, it's quite torturous the way some of the people that work there get treated and what they're expected to do when somebody steals some stuff at the back of the store. They just kind of give up. And then we've heard in the United States the amount of shoplifting, certainly on the West Coast, where Target and Walmarts are closing down because there's people walking in with shopping carts and walking out not paying.
They're organizing. Hey, y'all, we're going to meet at the Walmart at this time, and we're going to storm the castle.
Yeah,
they think they're storming it.
It's on a level like this is this is crime at its this is a strategic. These are people who are masterminding this to a certain, maybe not in Vancouver right now, but when you make it so easy to just grab and go, then it becomes an opportunity for bigger criminals to make money. And so, how do we get to the bottom of the? You talk about these people getting arrested and getting let out the next day. Obviously, most of these people that we see, certainly downtown, have healthcare, mental health care issues. They're drug addicts. They're homeless. It's and now they're going to be, so it's
and desperate and starving. There's desperate and starving as well. Not to be lost here. And George, certainly, you and I are both, oversimplifying some of the issues here by focusing just in on one thing. And we're not claiming to have the answer to this. And yet, at the same time, start somewhere. It feels like everybody's just we're going to study this. Study freaking over. The city is, and you go into the interior where policing is strapped, going back to the Surrey Police Services, Surrey RCMP issue. One of the big reasons why this legislation is coming in is because, and it's written into the release that they put out, is if you are a municipality or a township that looks to transition to a municipal police force, once you make that move, it's done. There's no going back. So because they can't deal with maybe sometimes 4 years from now, and then it's a wedge issue, and now we're going to make it a campaign thing, and we're going to get the other people, and we're going to amp it up and whatever. And on top of that, you can't be drawing officers from all over the province, leaving other areas completely unsteady and unprotected, because there are some serious issues in rural locations around this province with crime and worst
case is
it's not a downtown east side problem, it's an everywhere problem.
I know. And hey, guess what? Sorry, even with your own police department, here's a wake-up call. No offense to the City of Vancouver's police department, it's not the silver bullet, pardon the pun, or the only answer to the criminal behavior that we're seeing. It certainly isn't in Vancouver. We have our own police department. We have a nimble budget that can be increased and has been increased by 100% in the last 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
It hasn't solved the problem. The problem
Hadn't
is
solved the
worse.
problem.
So what is going on? So a Surrey police is not going to make it magically end all of your problems. And I think that's going to be a wake-up call for Surrey. And it's because it's, as you said, it's multiple issues going on here that all need to be solved simultaneously by all levels of government, and
that are not unique to here, not even unique to the country, right? I mean, there's that. That's the reality here is people are like, oh, I don't like this mayor, I don't like this premier, I don't like this prime minister. Look around at the chaos that is. I mean, Brady just went down with his dad to San Francisco to watch the 49ers Cowboys game. It was his dad's birthday and they went for the weekend. They went and saw the Sunday game week before last, whatever it was. And Brady came back and I'm like, so bud, how was it? You know, my parents used to live in San Francisco or there all the time. And he's like, Mom,
really?
Like walking down the street, I was the only person on the street. What used to be bustling and thriving, you know, area was just like, because nobody comes downtown anymore. You can't afford to park. You can't afford to drive. You do come there and park, your vehicle gets stolen or vandalized. Like, and that's not just a San Francisco thing. That's and
the big offices are closing and leaving, and staff are leaving. So there's nobody down there during the day.
Nobody lives there. No.
Yep. No. And their approach to criminal behavior and drug addiction, very similar to the way we've been managing it here in BC. And you know, Michael Schellenberger, San Francisco, if you haven't read it, I know I talk about it and people get mad at me about it and say it was at one point, this guy's a former Democrat who said, you know, we went too far. And this is, as a result, here we are in San Francisco, and it's spreading. It's in Seattle, it's Portland, it's even worse. And it's absolutely here in Vancouver. It's this West Coast thing, and it's in Los Angeles, and it's spreading. And it's a decision. And the problem is most politicians don't want to be hard asses, right?
Right. Nobody wants to be a hard ass because there's nowhere for people to go. And people do flood to the coast and flood to the places where you can actually survive on the street year round. Because that's the reality. Like I lived in Los Angeles back in the late 80s, early 90s, and was shocked and yet fascinated living in Venice Beach, right next door to Santa Monica. And I worked in Santa Monica at the Tony Roma's rib joint. Yes, nice. I did. Delicious. Yeah. But it was totally a place for ribs, right at the pier though. And when I had to work a day shift, I would roll through there early enough to see the people packing up their boxes, because it's a little cardboard city there, because it doesn't rain really, or it used to not rain very much. Certainly when I lived there. And you were allowed to sleep in the park after 11, out by 8, right? But there was nobody there after 8 o'clock. Like they will come through with a tractor trailer with a scoop on the front and get rid of you. Okay. Like it was like, woo! I don't know if that happens now. I don't know if they enforce it that way because there are so many more people and there's nowhere to go.
No,
like,
but
where are they supposed to go?
Because we used to have that rule in Vancouver, and we're supposed to have that rule now, but the engineering department in Vancouver used to go in the morning, help the park board because they didn't have the staffing, and would move these people along now. And then they stopped doing it about 10 years ago. And now there's this culture where it's really, really hard to get people to move along and say, yep, get your tent out of here. It's time to go. And so you have to be tenacious doing that. You have to be consistent. Otherwise it does just spread. It's the whole broken windows concept.
You've been saying it for years on this podcast, George. You've literally been saying that since episode 1.
It's like anything that we talk about. You should really get back into
politics.
But it's like business. It's like if you everything requires consistency for success. You have to be consistent. Our show, this show, we're on episode 230, right? This, you know, we do it we have the exact same timing every week. We have our process. This it makes it easier to do the work if you have a consistent plan and you stick to it. And that goes for little things and big things. And the fact that there's no consistency, and of course in government, when you keep changing governments
or names,
especially left, right, you definitely have a challenge.
Or you change your name of your party and then you see the party that you thought you were come in and take over. That's some wild Angus Reid polling that we saw in BC politics, showing the NDP continuing to hold that strong position, but an outright change, whereby the BC Conservative Party has now overtaken, according to this poll, the BC United.
Branding is not easy. And I would say that, and I've said this, I own a marketing company, and you need to spend, if you're going to change your name, change your name. It's a huge thing because it's confusing. And we've talked about this. But then people, well, what about ABC in Vancouver? Well, first of all, the NPA imploded like big time. So the competition was gone. There was no other party. And the guy who was the mayor was not liked. So you had no competition. And that's how ABC really managed to, and they were
the guy
organized.
that
And
barely lost to the guy that nobody liked was the NPA's guy.
that's right. So
and so the brand was actually Ken Sim, not NPA or ABC. It was where's Ken Sim, because last year I didn't vote for him and that guy got in, and now I'm gonna last election, not last year, excuse me. And now I'm gonna vote because that feels like kind of what happened there. They went with what they knew, the familiarity, and that is not the case with BC United. As much as Kevin Falcon is a notable name, he is not the the leader of the BC United. And I like Kevin Falcon as a person. I've spoken with him many times. He makes himself available. Do we agree politically? Not always. Sometimes absolutely not. And again, not a dyed in the wool anything. So I'm always open to the conversation, but I would have told him straight to his face when he's like, we're going to change to BC United. I would have said, no, that's dumb. Because you're not going to be fooling people like me who are like, oh, you're not NDP. You're not conservative. You're
what are you?
You're liberal. You're liberals. So what
are you? What do you stand for?
Yeah.
I think,
but BC United sounds like a soccer team to me. And so,
yeah. And we're going to get into the STR stuff next, but certainly where was BC United? Where is BC United on the Airbnb, this
short-term rentals. Yeah.
They've decided, obviously probably the polling isn't particularly good to go hard ass against Airbnb or supportive of Airbnb. Something I get accused of, and because I voted against a lot of these things when I was in council, because they don't work.
Because you have to enforce them.
Yeah. And then
that's the problem. Unless you wipe them out, unless you like move them into just zones where you can only, because the fact of the matter, and seeing Ian Tostinson speak on behalf of the hospitality industry saying, hey, listen, like that's great and all. And of course we need places for workers to live and for, citizens, residents to live near where they work and all of that. We also don't have the hotel space in this city anymore. We've had so many hotels. Have you looked at the rates to book a hotel room in Vancouver any day of the week? Any day. It's $700.
Yeah.
It's like
those last minute deals don't exist anymore. No. $100. Nope. Doesn't happen anymore.
No.
And it's, and so we have this situation, where we, and there's like the whole argument, there's the empty homes tax and the STR, the short-term rental programs that Vancouver took the lead on when I was there. I had a real challenge because I couldn't get staff to prove to me that it was going to solve the problem that they were arguing it would solve, which was it was going to put a whole bunch of rental homes into the market. It didn't. It didn't budge the number. It's not a solution for that, but it's good optics. It's good PR.
It's pain in the ass, man. Which one am I doing? Is this the empty homes tax? Is this the one?
Yeah, but it's good PR.
Is this? Am I exempt from what with my? And I have to do it every year. Like next year, I don't own the house that I'm still in the same, paying for the same water and parking and la la la. Like, it's ridiculous. It is.
I can tell you,
it makes me bonkers.
I was on a tear on Twitter about this because my building, I live in a strata building downtown, which now is zoned hotel, that neighborhood, which we could turn our building into a hotel if we wanted to. It's a bit of a process, and there's been a couple that have done it. We approved that when I was there, but we haven't. We've actually been quite strict about short-term rentals in our building. The owners said we want strict, so we went to the 90-day rule. The province then changed the regulations across the province to make it 30 days. So we have to actually walk back from our 90-day rule to 30 because the province changed the rule. So now we got 30-day rentals. But the problem is, it's 30 days is actually, a short enough period of time to actually get a lot of people interested in doing it, because a lot of people come here for 30 days.
Yeah.
The problem is a lot of renters in our building. They have about 60% of our building is rental, maybe more. They are not telling their owner that they're putting their homes on not just Airbnb, by the way. There are a ton of different sites that you could put your home on.
Verbo.
So they're putting them on there, and they're going away for a weekend, renting their apartment for a weekend, so they can make $600, for their rental unit, and the owner doesn't even know. And we,
I had a friend of mine
are supposed to catch these people. It's impossible to catch.
I had a friend of mine who had two. She was renting where she lived, and had two prior properties that she rented in that she moved out of, and unbeknownst to her landlord in either of the other places, flipped them like on overnights and 2-day stays ongoing as Airbnbs for years. And I was watching this going, something's super broken there. Like, that the landlords don't know what the hell they're doing in their.
Well, and you try to, hey, you go thumbs up. That's weird.
That was
weird.
Updated my computer.
If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see a little thumbs up when Jody did her thumbs up there. That was weird. And the thing is that all these rules that keep coming in it seems to be about there it is again, renters, not about the owners. There is nothing much that owners in my building, besides saying, we're going to follow the rules that the province has set aside, or the city, or whatever. Yeah. We want to follow the rules. We don't want but we can't. Literally, this is what we have to do as a strata, and I'm on the strata council. In order to catch people who quite often will drive into the garage because they got a fob and a key from the 7-Eleven down the street in a box that you can get there and rent as an owner. Go there, pick it up, drive your car into the basement of the building. We have no idea. They park in the basement. They take from P2 up to their unit on whatever level it's at. So we never even see these people. If they do come through their front door, how are we supposed to know that this person walking with a bag, or maybe not a bag, maybe nothing, a shoulder bag, and walking into the elevator and going to the 33rd floor or 25th floor is an Airbnb? How are we supposed to know that? And what are we supposed to do? Stop them and ask them for identification? And in fact, we do that sometimes. Our concierge, we don't have a 9 and 24-hour concierge, but that's something you need to start looking at if you're going to even deal with this. But it's so expensive to do that.
That's so expensive.
So we don't even know. And it's our job to catch these people who are quite often renters who are rented out their units for 2 or 3 days here and there on various sites. There are multiple sites, as I said. So we call this the Airbnb thing. Airbnb is probably the most compliant of all of them. It kind of works with government, but generally they don't really want to. But there are just other places. You can put it on Facebook. It doesn't matter where it is. There's many places you can put your listing without anybody catching you. And literally, if I wanted to, I'd have to go on Airbnb. If you go on Airbnb as an example and try to find a unit that's in my building, you can't actually figure it out.
Because it's not by
pictures,
address.
And you go, I think that's our building. Yeah. I think it might be our building.
I just learned
what floor is it? What unit is it? I don't know. It's impossible to police. So therefore, as I've always argued, why are we so focused on these 3,000 units, which is about what they're saying is in Vancouver, when we could build the 97% of the buildings that we have and units in our building or in a city, more of those? Why are we not focusing on the 97%, or whatever the number? 99%.
We need to study it. We need to study it, George. We need to go
build
back.
More.
We need to go
hotels.
We need the staff to look at it. You know what? I talk about build. I just want to slide into. We haven't even referenced what's happening in the Middle East. I don't want to go too deep into it, but how it's impacting here at home with the Port Coquitlam Elementary School that was burnt down. The Hazel Trembath school, unbelievable. Terrible. Just what the hell's wrong with people, for sure. What is right in this situation is watching Port Coquitlam Mayor Brad West. Full disclosure, his son attended that school, so this is very personal to him. But regardless, I believe that Brad West would do the right thing anyway, because he's proven himself to do that kind of thing. I'm a fan of the way he governs, the way he leads. Basically, they've said, we're waiving all city fees in order to immediately, the processes and the fees associated with rebuilding the schools, all waived. We're moving ahead. We're building it. Like, is it a Vancouver charter thing that we can't just waive some stuff and get stuff built on city property? Because when you look around, where there's money, there is will. And where there's will, there is a way. And the fact that we are how many episodes into this show, and I can count on one hand a building that has gone up that I have looked and said, that's for people with little or nothing to get their feet back under them. There's basically more have shut down than been built.
Yeah,
more
I
have
think
been
the only
condemned.
Examples would be the temporary modular housing, which is over 1,000 units in Vancouver, but they're temporary.
Right.
and they're modular.
And how many units have gone away because of the closure of the slumlords and fire? And I mean, we could just go on for days.
But we do build 6,000 units a year in Vancouver. But where are they? How and why? If you build 6,000, why can't we build 9,000?
100%.
You know, that's
can I ask you? Well, are we a world-class city?
We have been for quite a long time, many years, in fact, and we often win awards for being the best city in the world. We're top 3 often in so many polls. So yes, we're a world. I would say we're a world-class city.
We're
Expo
not building.
86,
That's right. Right. I was just talking to somebody about Expo 86. I was so lucky to be there all the time. You were there too all the time, right?
I was at the BC Pavilion. Yes, it was. Yeah. I was 21. It was a fun place to be.
Yeah.
There are many stories I can't tell you.
I turned 19.
Being 21 at Expo.
I turned 19 at the tail end of it because for the number of months before, because it went through spring and summer, right? Like people think it was just a fair. No, it's like it was epic. But August 23rd is my birthday. By the way, happy belated birthday, buddy.
Thank you very much.
There you go. I forgot. Yes. Good one. But I had been sneaking into the bars since the very beginning. So a bunch of friends of mine who had been partying with me, I was sneaking into the bars. I was working at Kids Pub when I was 17 in the co-check. But they all thought I was 18 when I was 17. And then they thought I was 19 when I started, really hanging out. So when my 19th birthday actually hit and all my friends from high school were like, yeah, 19. All my friends were like, sorry, what? All of the bartenders and whatever that I'd been befriended over the years, they're over it now. I want to talk about a little bit of what's going on before let's go to Lytton first, because this really bugs me. What's happening here, George?
It fits into that housing. You talk about Brad West and how fast, and Lytton, how many years ago now? 2 years ago? 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
3 years ago?
No, it'll be 3 years. It's 2 years ago. It was 2021. It was June 30th, 2021 that it burned to the ground.
Right. So you were driving up there.
I was driving up there for Canada Day.
Chased by fire flames.
Yeah. I watched it. I was like, that looks like a volcanic eruption. What the hell is that? And I didn't, my brain didn't work. And I continued driving. It says a lot about the human condition when you don't believe your eyes.
It sounds like a movie script when you tell the full story, I tell you. That and the other one, the flooding one, you had both those stories.
Oh God, I know.
You had quite a year of escaping things, but the
climate change.
And NDP can't blame the BC Liberals or the BC United for this one.
No,
guys, so there was a protest today in Lytton. All the 800 people, I think, saying what's happening? Because guess what? Nothing's happening.
They're saying
this is a town.
They're doing an excavation of what did they call it? Like archaeological dig type excavation. Like they have to be. They're just making sure there's right, because they've already remediated. Area? I guess.
Well,
I don't know.
We're not to say anything about that, are we?
But they remediated there must be some
property
for the last year and a half. Right.
Can you build a couple of 60 units or something somewhere?
How about they buy all the RVs from RV land and whatever that are sitting still because nobody is using an RV like they did for the 3 years prior, because we were only allowed to go places in RVs. Like there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way.
800. We put up 800 a year in Vancouver.
Yeah.
In Vancouver, 800 modular homes, and you can make them look pretty good. It's not a perfect solution, but if people want to move back to their town, give them a solution. Nobody in this province is going to push it back on this if there's a cost to it.
No.
I mean, what is the hold up here? It's embarrassing.
They're still living in hotels. It is embarrassing, George. It is. You know what else is embarrassing? And I'm kind of loving it for him, is watching Donald Trump sit in a courtroom, taking it on the chin on his finances, because nothing hurts this man more than saying he's not rich, and he might get all of his ability to do business in New York taken away from him in this trial. And then while he's sitting there with that, scowl on his face, feeling like, the disgruntled, spoiled brat that he appears to be, you got Sidney Powell, his former legal counsel through the election fraud.
So vocal.
Yeah,
she was
a huge key to this, and she's fully flipped. entered a guilty plea. I was watching the hearing this morning where they were like, and you will do this, 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 and you will. And she's like, yes, ma'am. Yes,
Except
ma'am.
one thing.
Yeah.
The one thing she did was push back on was being able to carry firearms.
Right.
Because I wonder why. Because now she's the most hated.
My gun.
It's scary, but
it's scary, but she made her bed. God damn it.
But no, I just think, is this the gotcha moment? But I keep going, oh, that's Trump. Who knows?
There have been 9 million gotcha moments. I said this to Linda. We were talking. I'm like, I'm rather enjoying this particular moment for him, especially when the other judge, when he tried to delay his trial, she's like, nope, not going to delay it. You're going to be on trial in the spring, right when it is like gearing up big time for. And she's like, I don't care. I don't care. And that's the thing with the judicial system, wherever you might be. You might think, oh, yeah, well, I'm going to say this and I got my proof, whatever. And then you get in front of a judge and the judge goes, no. And you're like, oh, okay.
There's nothing I can do here.
There's not, and there isn't. And that, I think it's taken way too long. The damage is deep, but I hope that what we are going to see over the next couple of years sees the pendulum swing back.
With common sense
in democracy. Yeah. Common sense and learning that it's a hard lesson, especially for the most vulnerable people in the United States, to see the extremists who have no idea how to govern land those. I mean, Jim Jordan being second in line to the president, like, oh my,
I thought he maybe had it. And
I thought so too.
It's like, maybe not. So now what?
He's an election denier. If he was elected speaker and the next election comes through, he could refuse to, what do they call it? Stamp, authority. What's the word?
Approve or Now you've got
you know what I mean?
Yes.
Shit.
Verify. No.
Yeah.
Somebody will tweet at us on this one.
Hey, tweet us at it. We'll see if you're watching because we got to go. This is 30 minutes. It goes by too fast. If you want to follow unspunpodcast.com, like and subscribe, share with your friends. You can watch it on video if you want to see us make goofy faces at you, or you can just listen when you're in your car. Just ask Google to play Unspun Podcast, which now I have in my car. It's so weird. Fancy. No AM radio. It's so weird. But you can also follow us on Twitter. I'm going to continue to call it Twitter, and I'm never paying for it, by the way. You can follow this guy at George_Affleck_. We call him George_Affleck is George's handle. At Jody Vance, Jody with a Y, at Jody Vance on Twitter, Instagram, all of them. My TikTok is not as funny as George's.
I'm trying to sell things on my TikTok. I'm trying to make money.
I know. I love it. You're teaching people.
Work.
Yeah. So tune into Steele and Vance, 8:00 on Thursdays on Check. Linda and I are having a great time in season 2. It repeats on Sundays at 4:00 on Check, or you can just watch it online. On the Check Plus app. You don't even need to have cable. There you go.
Have a great weekend. Bye.